evening, guys. Only I see only two of you. We'll wait for some more time. Oh, three of you. Okay. Nice. How's it going, guys? In your school? Have they started your practical stuff? Hello, are you there? Is there a problem? Like, I hope you're able to hear me. You don't want to speak, or is the you're in a situation where you cannot unmute yourself and speak? I don't know. I see three people. Shruti, someone. Yeah, I now have more people coming. Harini, Tula, Anirudh. So are you finding it a little tough? Now the exams are nearing. Stuff. Come on, guys. Do I look like an alien? Are you so scared of me because of all the beard I have? Huh? I think most of you would have seen me before, right? I think I took all the physical chemistry chapters for you. Solutions, solid state, electrochemistry, chemical kinetics, these chapters. And that time it was okay, right? Everybody was engaging in conversations. I don't know what happened now. I guess okay. Is everything good? Can someone say yes? Yes. I didn't hear anything.
So am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible. Yes. Okay, good. At least I feel some presence. I'm not talking to the camera by myself. Thank you so much. Okay, fine. So now people are here. We'll start. So yesterday we did haloalkanes and haloarenes. Today we'll be going for alcohol ethers and phenols. Is that the only chapter, guys? Alcohol ethers, phenol is the only chapter, or do you have any other chapter today in the schedule?
For 1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, it's only chapter.
Oh, only alcohol ethers and phenols?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. Fine. So again, before we start, I would like to ask, is there anything specific you want me to teach? In this chapter, there is only, I guess, one mechanism, one or two mechanisms, right? So that, if I have to speak, first one is, I think, Williamson synthesis. That is again a nucleophilic substitution only, right? That is normal SN2 mechanism, right? And then I have esterification. Esterification will come in carboxylic acid also, but that's not a big deal. You can understand what is going to happen here, right? So we know what is esterification, right? We have an alcohol and we have an acid reacting together to form an ester, right? That is what is your esterification reaction, right? So what happens here, if I look at the mechanism, right? Remember, not only this, if you want to go for any acid derivatives, right? Acid derivatives, we know acid derivatives can be acid chlorides, acid anhydrides, esters, cyanides, amides, right? All these are the different acid derivatives. So for any of the acid derivatives, right, this is the mechanism. This is how you produce an acid derivative from an acid. Sorry. Excuse me. Right. So it is like you can produce one acid derivative to another, or you can produce an acid derivative from an acid. So either of it, this is how the mechanism goes. So I have the acid with me, RCOOH. Right. Say for example, if I'm going for ester, right? So you know what is going to happen. I'm going to have the R-OH, right? Okay. Now here, what you have to understand is the mechanism can be put in very simple words. The simple words, how can you put it? Is it is actually going to be nucleophilic addition and elimination. So two things are going to happen. right? So nucleophilic addition and elimination. Very simple. So first is nucleophilic addition. So you can see, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about more about this in your aldehydes and ketones chapter. So what you have to understand is this carbonyl group, right, is capable of undergoing nucleophilic addition. Okay, right. So please understand, when I have a C double bond C and when I have a C double bond O, there is a lot of difference, isn't it? Right. So here, this can also undergo addition reaction. This can also undergo addition reaction, right? But in this case, I call it as an electrophilic addition, and in this case, I'm going to call it as a nucleophilic addition. Why am I calling it like that? Can you tell me? Why, in case of alkene addition reaction, if I go for HCl, right? I know I'm going to get H and Cl, and if I go for say HCN, HCN acid, you're going to get cyanohydrin. But here, both of them, see, both in HCl as well as in HCN, you have the electrophile, that is H plus, right? And you have the nucleophile, that is in HCl, it is Cl minus, and in case of your HCN, it is a cyanide ion, Cn minus, right? But still, the name is different. Do you know why?
So, in electrophilic addition, electron-rich species will get added.
Electron-rich species will get added. In both the cases, it is getting added. Electron-rich species, if you say a nucleophile, is getting added. Cl minus, Cn minus is also getting added here. But still, I call them as different names for the addition reaction. Okay, so the basic difference is this. It's all about which attacks first, right? So hope you understand, if it's going to be a normal addition reaction, say for example, H plus is the one which, or basically I should put it like this, the double bond will attack the H plus, basically H, or you can tell like H plus attacks first, whatever it is. Okay, so it is the electrophile which attacks first when I have a C double bond C. But if it is going to be a nucleophilic addition, it is the Cn minus, or say whatever be the nucleophile, that will attack first the carbonyl carbon in this bond. That is the basic difference, right? So in electrophilic addition, electrophile attacks first. In nucleophilic addition, nucleophile attacks first. Okay, so anyways, I think we're a little deviating from the topic. So all we wanted to see is how the esterification reaction happens, right? So this you understood, right? Electrophilic addition, nucleophilic addition. Anyways, okay. Right. So here I'm going to have the nucleophile here as ROH. How it can be nucleophile? You see, there is a lone pair on oxygen, right? Now that is going to act as the nucleophile, right? So what is going to happen is this will come here, and obviously this bond will break, right? So what will you have is R, C, O minus, and OH, and this I'm going to have O, R dash, H. Oxygen is going to have a positive charge. Is it not? Because it has donated electrons. The lone pair has been donated by this oxygen. So this oxygen will have a positive charge, right? If at all you don't want to complicate it, you can directly write it as RO minus attacking this. Now what you have to do is obviously you have to remove the H plus, right? You remove the H plus from this. So you have R, C, O minus, OH, O, R dash. No issues. Okay, or you can even think as if that I'm going to have a proton transfer. Proton transfer, this H plus is gonna go attack this oxygen. Okay, so can I write it as OH2 plus? There is a reason why I'm doing this. I'll tell you why. Okay, so now what is the next step? This is the addition reaction. Nucleophilic addition is over. Now what is the next step? Elimination. Now you have the O minus. This O minus will come back, make a double bond. So obviously some of the bond has to break. So whichever is a better leaving group, we talked about leaving capacity yesterday, right? So whichever is a better leaving group, that will leave. And obviously water is a very good leaving group. So look at the arrow shootings, right? The bond comes back, and the OH2 will take the bond pair along with it to go eliminate as water. So what will you have is R, C double bond O, O, R dash plus H2. Yes, right? First is the nucleophilic addition of alcohol. right? Now you have the oxygen will have a positive charge, and you transfer the hydrogen to the OH group, so it becomes OH2 plus. Then you make the double bond back, and then you eliminate water to form ester. This is how any acid derivative mechanism happens: nucleophilic addition, elimination. Okay, right. Now, why I have to do this? Why I have to convert this into OH2 and not just OH is because OH minus is a very, very bad leaving. Okay, OH minus is a very, 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 very bad leaving group, right? And that is the reason, guys. Okay. Well, any doubts till now? You understood the mechanism?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Right. So now we are talking about OH minus. I'm telling you this OH minus is a very, very bad leaving group. Right. Now, because of this, what is going to happen? If I have an alcohol, I'll rub this part now. Right. So if I have an alcohol, and if I want to make it undergo nucleophilic substitution, like just like how I did an RX, like in your alkyl halides, this will not undergo nucleophilic substitution. For the same reason. Why? Because OH minus is a very, very bad leaving group. We know OH minus is a very strong base, right? NaOH is a very strong base, right? So OH minus ions are highly basic. So I told you leaving capacity is inversely related to the basic strength. So strong base will be a very, very bad leaving group, right? So this nucleophilic substitution will not happen. But if I had an alcohol, and you should have seen this reaction where I had HCl, you would have formed RCl here. Right? Now, how is this happening? Is it like OH minus is replaced by Cl minus? Not exactly. What is going to happen is basically this H plus I have from this is going to attack the lone pair on oxygen. So first thing you will form is OH2 plus. And then the nucleophilic substitution happens, because now this attacks. Now this OH2 plus will be a very good leaving group. Now you can have the RCl. Okay, right? So the overall point is, if you want alcohol to undergo nucleophilic substitution, you have to convert the OH into a better leaving group. And one of the example is by adding H plus and making it to OH2 plus, which will be a good leaving group, and then you can have the nucleophilic substitution reaction happening. Okay, right? So well enough. Good. Okay. Okay, now we'll solve some questions. If you have any other doubts, any specifically from this chapter, you can ask me. That also can be cleared. See, look at this. Okay. Fine. I hope you've taken this part. Okay. They're asking, if I have C2H5OH 2 times, and if I go for H2SO4 at 413 Kelvin, I am going to have C2H5O. I'll write it down, guys. Okay, C2H5O, C2H5, right? They're asking, what is the mechanism for this? Okay, this was asked in previous year. I think this was asked in Delhi board exams 2013. Okay, right. So we have to propose a mechanism for this. Okay, so you see, you have already seen the reaction. Alcohol getting alcohol with H2SO4 has two reactions. What are the two reactions? One is this, other one is the other one is water. If I put concentrate H2SO4 in place of an alcohol, what is the other product which you can expect?
Dehydration.
Good, right? So I know concentrate H2SO4. Okay, if I look at the dehydrating agents, there are a couple of them. There are a couple of those. One is concentrated H2SO4, or you can use concentrated H3PO4, or you can use phosphorus pentoxide, or you can even go for aluminum oxide. So any of this. Okay, so any of this reagents can act as dehydrating agents. Anyways, right? So that we understood. So one of the products we obviously expect is elimination, dehydration. So you form an alkene as the product, that we know. right? So how do you propose a mechanism for this, right? Fine. So any idea, guys? You wanna help me here rather than me telling you. You wanna tell me if this question, if I didn't teach you, and if this question came in your exams, what you would have done?
So first from H2SO4, the H plus will be attacking the lone pair of the OH.
Okay.
And
Correct. And
sir, I think there another, since there are two molecules of C2H5OH, another molecule like there will be some reaction between them. That's how it takes place.
Okay, I just want to ask you one question. Almost what you said is right. What is the reaction which you're telling about? Other molecule react, what reaction is this? There are so many types of organic reactions, right? What reaction do you expect? So let me just put what you told now. I have C2H5OH, and from the H2SO4H plus attacks the lone pair on oxygen. So you'll have C2H5OH2 plus. Now you're telling I will have another molecule of C2H5OH, and some reaction is going to happen. What is the reaction is what I'm asking.
Nucleophilic substitution reactions.
Absolutely. Right. So it's pretty simple, right? Now you added H plus, you converted this into a better leaving group. So obviously this alcohol is going to attack this carbon and this is going to leave. So you'll have C2H5OH plus. Now again, there's still a hydrogen left. So that is a positive charge. And this thing is still left. That is C2H5OH. And obviously what you have to do, you added a H plus, this is just a catalyst. So you have to remove the H plus. So you'll form C2H5O. Very, very simple. Okay, addition of H plus, then the nucleophilic attack of the alcohol. So this is how you can produce ethers from alcohols also. Okay, I hope it's clear. Right. Fine. Okay. One more question. Okay, any doubts? I hope it's clear. Pretty simple, very simple mechanism.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, if we ask secondary or tertiary alcohols, and we can't use dehydration causes, right? Like
yeah,
elimination with
secondary alcohols are okay for me, right? For example, if I had CH3, CHOH, CH2, CH3, and if I go for H2SO4, this is a secondary alcohol. This will undergo dehydration. Is that what you're asking, or you're talking about this?
Sorry, sir. Formation of ester, sir. Ester formation.
Ester or ether?
Ether formation.
Okay, so you're talking about ether. Yes, it is difficult. It is difficult, right? It's because of steric. Yeah, tell me.
So what is the reason? If they ask the reason, so what should we write, sir?
It's because the nucleophilic substitution reaction you are seeing is an SN2 mechanism, not SN1. Right? SN2 mechanism. What is the reactivity criteria?
Carbocation stability.
That is SN1. SN1 is carbocation.
SN2 steric hindrance.
Absolutely, that's the reason. It's because in secondary and tertiary alcohols, I have higher steric hindrance. It might not undergo.
Sir, I have a doubt. Considering the SN1 and SN2 substitution reaction, for secondary, like any secondary carbon present here, so like the order is similar for SN1 and SN2 no, sir. So what should be considered?
Oh, that's what, like by whatever reaction which we saw the mechanism, it is SN2. It is not going to undergo SN1 mechanism. That's what you need to understand.
Sir, but then in general, I am asking, sir, like not this one specific, like in any other.
Oh, you're asking how do we predict whether the reaction is going to be SN1 or SN2? Oh, SN2, yeah. So that
if a secondary carbon is present, like
I understand what you're asking, right? So if it's SN1, I know secondary comes second, like in order of reactivity. Even in SN2, secondary comes second. So how do you judge whether it is going to be SN1 or SN2? Don't worry about it. It's all depends on the solvent, right? I told you if it's secondary, you have to look at the solvent, right? If it's an polar aprotic solvent, we discussed yesterday, that would give me SN2. If it's a polar protic solvent like water, ethanol, and stuff, then you will see that it's going to be SN1. Right? And that much they're not going to test you. Don't worry. They are not going to test you this much on all. But even if they ask you this question, tell them that you have to look at the solvent. Depending on the solvent, the corresponding reaction will be favored.
Okay, sir.
Right. Fine. Okay. Right. I'm looking for a good conversion. Come on, give me a good conversion. Just a moment, people. Why am I not seeing any conversion? Okay. There are some. So you have propanone 2, you have to convert it into 2-methyl propan 2-ol. Okay, right? So you have propanone, you know what is the structure of propanone, and obviously you have to, guys, IUPAC naming is very important. At least you will get at least questions for at least 2 marks, right, from the IUPAC naming. I hope all of you are very clear with IUPAC naming. Are you guys okay with IUPAC naming? I hope
Yes,
you're all okay.
sir.
Right. So that's why I'm not concentrating much, but definitely you will get questions for at least 1 mark or 2 marks or even 3 marks with respect to IUPAC name. So please or even if it is not directly asked, like this, they will ask you. So you must know how to draw the structures of these molecules if they give the names. Okay, fine. So I'll give you maybe 2 minutes. Think about it. And I hope all of you are sitting with a pen and a paper. If not, go take a pen and a paper and start solving this. I'll give you 2 minutes time. Right, this is 2-methyl propanol, propan 2-ol. Yeah. It's a single step conversion. What do you have to use? Two words is what I'm expecting.
Grignard reagents.
That's it. Yeah, dry ether alone, you should have dry ether is the solvent, right? So you have to use what is that? Grignard reagents to do this, right? So hope you understand, guys. Like if I have RCO, like okay, first, right? When I have C double bond O, it can be aldehyde or a ketone. Again, aldehyde, again, it can be formaldehyde or it can be normal aldehyde, right? Okay, HCHO or any other R group other than H anything can come, right? Anyways, the mechanism is very same, right? You can remember mechanism, you can remember, but see, guys, I'm a guy, I love organic chemistry, okay? And organic chemistry has to be taught in a way it has to be taught, okay? And NCRT teaching, NCRT, the books literally sucks, okay? Trust me on that, right? So if at all you really want to enjoy organic chemistry, the thing is you have been mugging up reactions. Even when I was at your age, I was doing the same thing, unless and until I found out there is an easier way of studying organic chemistry. But now it's too late for you to study that. But maybe with whatever little there I can help you out, I will help you out there, like wherever possible. Okay, it's pretty simple. What you have to understand is, again, see, this carbonyl-carbon ion can undergo nucleophilic addition reactions. The nucleophile can attack, the double bond O can break, and something can happen, right? So that's exactly the same thing the Grignard reagent also does. Okay, so if I have this RMgX, that's your Grignard reagent, right? Now this RMgX is capable of giving me R minus, is it not? This is R minus Mgx plus. That is how the ionic species looks. R minus Mgx plus. Okay, so this R minus is a nucleophile, right? Now this nucleophile attacks here and the double bond O breaks, right? So what will you have is C. Now you can say that it is O minus is going to come. This O minus can go react with Mgx plus. So I can write it as O Mgx, and there's two other bonds, and you have the R. Correct. Now what will be the next step? Next step would be hydrolysis. Hydrolysis converting Mgx into H. So you'll have C, OH, R, and two more bonds. This is the mechanism. Okay. Now you can easily deduct something here. If it is HCHO, if the carbonyl compound you're talking about is HCHO, you will always get only primary alcohols. You can see here it's H and H. R, CH2, OH. Primary alcohol, right? Now, if it was any other aldehyde other than formaldehyde, you are going to get a secondary alcohol. Say, assume that one of them is H, say one of them is R. Now, what will you have? R, CH, OH, R dash, secondary alcohol. Now, if it is a ketone, you are going to get a tertiary alcohol. So, convert this also into an R. You are going to get a tertiary alcohol. Mechanism is similar. Mechanism is exactly same for all the aldehydes and ketones. Okay, so remember this. When I have a formaldehyde and I put a Grignard reagent, primary alcohol, or the other aldehyde other than formaldehyde, secondary alcohol, ketone, tertiary alcohol. This is all there in your books. The only thing that is not there is the mechanism. So this also you can know. But don't worry, they're not going to ask you the mechanism. But still, it's good to know. Interesting it is, right? Okay, fine. So this we understood. Okay, maybe one more question. I hope there are no doubts. Everything is clear. Okay, so they're asking if I have CH3 thrice C, O, C2H5, and if I put HI, what are the products? So this is HI cleavage, ether cleavage, right? What are the products? Two products you're going to get.
The C2H5OH and then CH3 thrice CI.
Okay, good, right? So you're going to get CH3 thrice CI plus C2H5OH. Okay, right? This you would have done. There are certain rules which you have to follow, right? The mechanism is like mechanism, we don't have to see, right? What you have to understand is, see, if at all I have ROR, if I have HI, ROR dash, if I have, say I'm going to get RH plus R dash I, right? Now, how do you decide which alkyl group will get the iodide and which alkyl group will get the OH is the big question here, isn't it? Right. So case one, right? Case one is when both R's are primary or secondary. Okay, when both R's are primary or secondary, you are going to say that the smaller R will get the iodine. For example, if I had CH3O C2H, smaller or bigger one, it will, if it's SN2, I minus will attack the lesser one. Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. What I wrote here is correct, right? So if you put HI, you are going to get CH3I plus C2H5OH. Okay, now this is case one. When I go to case two, right? If one of the R's is tertiary, then the tertiary R gets the I. That's what you see here. Right? If one of them is tertiary, if both of them are tertiary, no reaction will happen. Don't worry. Okay, right? If one of them is tertiary, another one is primary or secondary, the tertiary one has to get the iodide. Okay, right? Last case is case three. If one of the R is phenyl group, PH, C6H5, right? So you are going to get phenol as the product. You'll always get phenol as the product, and the other alkyl group will get the iodide. Okay, for example, I don't have space, maybe I can wrap this, right? This you have taken down. So if I had OC2 or OCH3 or whatever it is, and if I put HI, you are going to get OH plus CH3. Okay, right? Now there are reasons for this. If you want to know the reason, that also I can tell you. Now please understand, when both the alkyl groups are primary or secondary, now this is a nucleophilic substitution. That's what you have to understand. Maybe if you can understand that, maybe I'll give you the mechanism later, right? I'll give you, it's a very simple mechanism. I'll tell you how. Okay, so when both the alkyl groups are primary or secondary, right, they are going to follow SN2 mechanism. That is the reason why the iodide attacks the lesser sterically hindered carbon. That's why you're going to get the smaller alkyl group will get the iodide. The nucleophile here is I minus, please understand, right? The nucleophile here is I minus. So if it is follow SN2, right, you have to make sure that the nucleophile attacks the lesser sterically hindered carbon, because that's how the reactivity works. Right now, if this is the case, if one of the alkyl group is tertiary, then SN1 is favored. Obviously, a tertiary carbocation will be formed, and then the I minus attacks. Okay, that's why you see the tertiary alkyl halide getting the iodide. Sorry, tertiary alkyl group getting the iodide, right? And here, now why is it that this only I'm getting? The reason here is different. It's not because of SN1 or SN2. Can you come up with a reason for this? Why am I getting this and not CH3OH? Do you want to give a reason to this?
Maybe due to electronegativity of oxygen, so H plus.
Not exactly. So the thing is, you can understand here. Yeah.
The aryl oxygen bond is stronger, stable.
Why? Why is it stable?
Partial double bond character.
That's it. That's the reason, right? Because of resonance, I can have partial double bond character coming. So this bond cannot be broken. Okay, this bond cannot be broken. That's why OH will be there and the I will be taken by the CH3, because this bond can be broken easily. Then you get CH3I. Right? So the reason is because I have partial double bond character because of resonance. Right? Okay, good. Cool. We'll go to the next question. Oh, see, phenyl one second. Phenyl methyl ether reacts with HI to form phenol methyl iodide does not. Okay. Methyl iodide and not iodide. Oh, see, the same question is asked. It was previous year. No, it was given in NCRT also, I guess. In your NCRT book back, this question is there. Same question. Why is it that CH3OH is not getting formed? You have to give the reason. Tell them that it's because I have in the aryl oxygen bond is having a partial double bond character. Okay, that's the question. Okay, right. Next question.
So,
yeah.
Sir, could you just brush up the acidity of alcohols and phenols part once?
Sure. Yeah, we can do it. It's actually very important. I was about to do that only now. I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe let me see if I can get a question based on that. It will be very helpful. Let me check, or else I'll teach you by myself. Okay, I'm not getting. Cool. I'll only teach you. Okay, so we're talking about acidic strengths of alcohols, right? We know that ROH, this bond can come out and I can have RO minus and H plus, right? Okay, now what you have to understand is people, they are acid, we say it's acidic, but please understand it is even less acidic than water. Water is more acidic than alcohols, but again, depending on the conditions, but generally alcohols are having lesser acidic strength than water, right? Okay, fine. So what you have to understand is people, when it comes to organic chemistry, right, the acidic strength, see, this is going to be useful even when I go for carboxylic acids, right? You know, carboxylic acid, we'll decide the acidic strength. In that chapter also it will come, right? Okay. So acidic strength is directly proportional to the stability of the conjugate base. As simple as that. Very simple, right? So acidic strength, right, is directly proportional to the stability of the conjugate base. Now I can explain it logically also. Now we already saw yesterday what do you mean by a conjugate base, right? Can someone tell me what is a conjugate base?
Sir, here RO minus is the conjugate base.
Okay, right. So generally conjugate base means after removing H plus, whatever is remaining is what is my conjugate base. Obviously, in this case, after removing H plus, I have RO minus. RO minus is the conjugate base. If it was acid, it would have been RCOO minus. Carboxylate ion would have been the conjugate base. Anyway, so what they're telling here, or what is given, is the acidic strength of any species, right, is directly proportional to the stability of the conjugate base. Now, why is it that if you make this reaction or if you make this dissociation happen, and if you find that this is more stable, not only in this case, any case for that matter, if you find that the conjugate base is stable, obviously the reaction will move more and more in the forward direction, right? Thermodynamics says, right? Thermodynamics, that's what it says. Thermodynamics says that the reaction will proceed to a direction where I have lesser energy. Means more stability, right? Energy and stability are inversely related, right? So if you can have a stable base, stable conjugate base, stable species after the dissociation, then the reaction will move more and more in the forward direction, right? Okay, fine. So that is the only thing you have to understand, right? Now for stability, right, for deciding stability only, we have all the effects, the electron displacement effects, we call it, inductive effect, resonance, hyperconjugation, mesomeric effect, so on and so forth, right? We have so many effects, right? So but for your level, we have to use only inductive effect, right? We have to use only inductive effect because they're not going to put in resonance and all. Resonance will come when I go to phenol. We'll come back to that, right? For now, aliphatic alcohols, you just have to worry about inductive effect, deciding the stability. And remember, stability with respect to inductive effects, how do I say? With respect to inductive effect, how can I say that something is very stable? The stability criteria with respect to inductive effect is what? Yesterday we spoke about it. I think with respect to what we spoke about it. Okay, I don't remember exactly. Okay, fine, no issues. So remember, stability is inversely proportional to the amount of charge. We already spoke about it. More and more neutral the species is. Oh, we spoke about this when it comes to carbocation stability. Hope you remember, right? Alkyl groups are electron donating in nature, right? That is why tertiary carbocations have the least positive charge, and that's why they were maximum stable. Hope you all remember this. Is there anyone who would remember? Is there anyone having a problem in deciding why tertiary carbocation is more stable than secondary and more stable than primary? Everybody remembers? Yes? No?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I hope everybody remembers. If not, please do ask me. There is nothing wrong. I am not going to judge you. Okay, if there's anyone who didn't know, please ask me. I'll teach again. Okay, fine. Assuming that you know, right? Okay, so stability is inversely proportional to the charge. More and more neutral the species is, more and more is the stability, right? Okay, now let me compare your alcohols, primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohols. We'll see what's happening. Okay, so let me have R CH2O minus primary conjugate base is what I'm talking, right? Whenever they ask you acidic strength, first thing you will do is remove the H plus. Okay, remove the H plus and check for the stability of the conjugate base. Not only here, any species, any organic species, if you're going to do masters in chemistry, you have to remember all this. I don't know how many of you will do, right? But anyways, so this is primary and this is your secondary, and this, which I have no space, I just have to remove the charge and the O minus. Okay, right? Now it's pretty simple, right? I know all alkyl groups are electron donating in nature. So I already have a negative charge on this oxygen, right? So if I have electron donating group, what will happen to the amount of negative charge? Will it increase or decrease?
Decrease.
Maybe I'll repeat the question.
Decrease.
Yeah, it is gonna increase, right? How? You have the oxygen to have a negative charge, and these alkyl groups are going to donate more electron to this oxygen. Already electrons are negatively charged. There's already a negative charge, so the negative charge is going to increase.
Sorry,
Yes.
sir. Yeah, it's increase. Yeah, sorry, sir.
Right? So pretty easy. If it was a positive charge, then you could have said the positive is decreasing. This is what happens in case of a carbocation, right? Carbocation had alkyl electron donating in nature. They will decrease the positive charge, right? But in this case, no, I have a negative charge which will be increased because of the presence of electron donating groups, right? Okay, now in this case, you see there are 2 electron donating groups. In this case, you see there are 3 electron donating groups. So obviously the maximum charge, maximum negative charge is possessed by tertiary, and the minimum negative charge is possessed by primary. And obviously we told stability is inversely proportional to the charge. So this is what is having the minimum charge, this is having the maximum charge. So this is what is the stability order. So obviously the order of acidic strength of alcohol, aliphatic alcohol, is primary greater than secondary, greater than tertiary alcohols or more acidic. Why? Because of the stability of the conjugate bases. With respect to inductive effect, all the alkyl groups are electron donating, increasing the negative charge on oxygen. Yes, clear? Now, this, if I go for phenol, okay, now phenol is a very important thing. Again, O minus, phenoxide. Again, you are going to say the stability of the conjugate base. What effect? Now, in case of aliphatic alcohol, all you can use only inductive effect, right? But when we go for phenol, the effect which I'm going to use is going to be resonance, right? Now, again, it's all about, again, you know, resonance, the amount of resonance is directly proportional to stability, right? The amount of resonance, the number of resonance structures, right? More and more of the number of resonance structures, more and more of the stability. Now you can easily see that this will come here, this will break, and eventually everything will happen, right? Okay, so obviously you see the negative charge on oxygen is actually not there. It is actually involving in the conjugation with the benzene ring. Okay, so that is what the charge delocalization, right? The charge delocalization brings in stability. Charge delocalization means resonance, right? So resonance brings in stability. Okay, right? This is highly stable. Phenoxyl ion is very, very highly stable because the negative charge is involved in resonance. Okay, so if I have to summarize it, primary alcohols are more acidic than secondary, secondary than tertiary, and phenol is more acidic than all of them, because here it's only inductive effect which is dominating, but there it is resonance. Okay, and whenever there is a competition between inductive effect and resonance, resonance always wins, right? And that is the same reason someone asked me yesterday, why chlorobenzene, even though chlorine is electron withdrawing group, right? But it is orthopara directing. There you see, by inductive effect, chlorine was electron withdrawing, right? But by resonance, it is electron donating. So what wins? Resonance only wins. That is why you see that it is going to be a orthopara directing group. Okay, so I think this is fine. I can make it more interesting. Okay, there is a question like this actually. If I ask you, 1 second. Can I have this part? Is everything okay? Guys, everybody understood everything? Phenol, primary, secondary, and tertiary. That's the order. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Right, I can make it more interesting. Right, if I have to make it more interesting, I can ask you, say, for example, I have CH3OH and say I have CH2ClOH. And if I ask you to compare which is more acidic, I have 1, 2. What will be your answer? Let me give you one more thing. Okay. Okay. So I want you to arrange them in the order of acidic strength. Forget about that. That is not included. These three.
So 3, 2, 1.
3 is maximum acidic or minimum? Okay, fine. So let us go a little slowly, right? So all of them are primary alcohols. Yes, you see, all of them are primary alcohols only, right? So it's all about, see, you learned about inductive effect. You learned about how do you decide the stability of the conjugate base. Correct, right? So apply everything. Chlorine is what kind of group by inductive effect? Electron withdrawing or electron donating?
Withdrawing.
Electron withdrawing group. Correct. So if I have, so for example, now what you have to do, first and foremost thing, whenever you talk about acidic strength, the first thing is you will remove all the H plus and make the conjugates. Right? Okay. Now, so the thing is, wherever now with respect to inductive effect, I know what is stability criteria. Stability criteria is lesser charge, more stability. Right? So out of these three molecules, wherever I'm going to have the least amount of negative charge on oxygen, that is the most stable conjugate base, and that particular acid is having the most acidic strength. Right? So now all you have to look for is the one which is having a least negative charge on oxygen. Where do you think I'm going to have the least negative charge on oxygen?
Sir, it's 2, 3, 1 in the increasing, like
2 is the maximum.
2 is the maximum acidic, and 3 is next, and 1 will be the least.
Okay, what you're telling is correct. Okay, right. So again, the thing is, all you have to look for is the lesser and lesser negative charge. Right now, so the answer given was this: 2 is most acidic, then comes 3, then comes 1. Right now, it's pretty simple. Why is it like this? Now you see this chlorine. Now this chlorine is going to it's an electron withdrawing group, so it is going to withdraw electron from this oxygen. So what is going to happen? I am going to have decrease in negative charge on oxygen. Then you can ask me, sir, here also I have chlorine. Why am I putting it next? Now remember, inductive effect is distance dependent. Okay, inductive effect is distance dependent. So electron withdrawing group closer to the oxygen will have more effect. It's like that, right? I have basically say I have 2-3 friends, right? Say one of them is very close to me, the other one is not so close, right? So it's like whatever the habits he has, whatever the closest friend of mine is having, whatever he does, I will do. And whatever the not so close friend, whatever he does, maybe I'll have only little impact on that. The same goes here, right? So this chlorine is very, very close to oxygen. So the decrease in negative charge is maximum here. But in this case, the chlorine atom is little far away, right? So thereby it is not able to decrease the negative that much, but still it decreases, right? But compared to the amount of decrease here and here the decrease is more, right? So here also it's decreased, but not so much, right? And obviously you can conclude that this doesn't have an electron withdrawing group. I have an electron donating group actually, right? Thereby the negative charge is going to increase. So you can see that the least negative charge is for 2, so that is maximum, then comes 3, then yes, everybody understood what is happening here? Yes, everybody understood why is this order came?
Yes, sir.
Okay, like about others, like everybody understood, guys? Oh yeah, now I'm back. Yes, so everybody understood. I don't know how many people are there. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are there. Okay, I hope everybody is telling yes. Yeah, cool. Right, I hope everybody is listening. Everybody understood why is this the reason. Okay, now let me make it little more interesting. And let me go to phenols, different types of phenols. We'll see what is going to happen. Say I have OH. I have OH with CH3. Oh, sorry. OH with CH3. OH with OMe. Me is methyl, right? And OH with NO2. Say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, right? I want you to arrange them in the order of acidic strength. Now, don't use inductive effect, please, right? Whenever you go for phenols, all you have to go for this resonance effects. Think about it and tell me the order of acidic strength. This kind of questions can come, people. I have seen somewhere I saw a previous year question, something like this. Yeah, but I'm not able to find it now. Still, but this kind of questions have been asked in the board exams. At least if you can tell me which is the maximum acidic, I'll be happy.
Sir, 4 will be the maximum acidic, sir.
Okay, good, correct. You want to tell me why?
Sir, NO2 is a electron withdrawing group, sir.
By electron withdrawing group, by what effect?
Sir, by inductive effect.
It's see, that's what I told you. We should not be looking at it like this thing. What is that? Inductive effects. We have to only look for resonance. Okay, so your answer is correct. It is an electron withdrawing group by resonance. I have already, I think, showed you yesterday what is going to happen. the ortho para directing groups. Why is it that NO2, if I have, will be a meta directing group? Why, if I have CHCl or something else, I'll have ortho para directing? We saw the resonance structures yesterday. Hope you remember, right? So please understand the NO2 is an electron withdrawing group with respect to resonance. It is going to give me minus R effect. Okay. Now tell me what kind of effect does OMe gives, plus or minus R? OMe will give plus R or minus R. Basically, whenever it's electron withdrawing, it's minus R. Whenever, again, same goes with inductive effect. Whenever it's electron withdrawing group, it is minus the effect. Okay, so tell me, OMe group with respect to resonance is going to give me plus R or minus R?
Sir, plus R.
Yes, right. It's pretty simple. Whenever you have lone pair present, it is going to get donated. So definitely it is going to be plus R. Okay, right. And this definitely you see in case of nitrobenzene, you know what is going to happen, right? You have a double bond O and a coordinate bond like this. This nitrogen doesn't have a lone pair. So it is actually going to pull electrons on the benzene ring. That is why it is actually having a minus R, but this donates plus R effect. Okay. CH3, we know inductive effect by CH3, it is going to give it as an electron donating group. With respect to resonance, what it is? Is it electron donating or electron withdrawing with respect to resonance? Okay, so I suppose we have to concentrate on that, right? Okay, now please understand, CH3 gives me plus R effect. Now you can ask me, sir, where is the lone pair? Like everything, OH is having a lone pair. NH2 will also, aniline again will have plus R effect, right? But this doesn't have a lone pair. So how do I tell it is actually having plus R? I should not actually calling the resonance, but still, no issues. I can call it, right? So that we have to explain how, right? But I really don't want to go into the details. Now, what you have to understand is, people, it is plus, if it is giving plus R effect because of hyperconjugation. That's all you need to know. Okay, it is giving plus R effect because of hyperconjugation. If at all you need to know it. Fine, actually, fine. I'll give you the answer to this question, then I'll speak about hyperconjugation. Okay, because I don't wanna just beat around the bush, right? Just okay. Anyways, right. So we understood that NO2 is going to give me minus R effect, and OMe is going to give me plus R effect, and this is also going to give me plus R effect, but with respect to hyperconjugation, right? And this has nothing. This you leave. Okay. Now tell me, right? Again, the same thing stays, right? Wherever I'm going to have lesser charge, more stability, right? So keeping that in mind, in whichever case where I have an electron withdrawing group, there I'll have lesser negative charge. It's all about negative charge. You remove the hydrogens. Again, same thing, right? Wherever I'm going to have the least amount of negative charge, that is where I'm going to have maximum stability. Correct. Now, this being an electron withdrawing group giving me minus R effect, definitely this is the one which is going to have maximum acidic strength, right? Okay. Now, if I have electron donating groups, what I have here, like in OMe and CH3, which are electron donating group, the negative charge on oxygen is actually going to increase, thereby decreasing the acidic strength. So after 4, which has to come next? Which has the next highest acidic strength among these 4?
1, sir.
Right? 1 doesn't have anything. This 2 has electron donating groups. This doesn't have anything. So definitely this comes next. Okay. Now I have to decide among these 2. Okay. Now please understand, people. Whenever you have competitions, right, between inductive effect, hyperconjugation, and resonance, this is the order of priority you will give. Resonance has the maximum priority. Then comes hyperconjugation. The least importance is given to inductive effect. Okay, right. So if there is something which is electron donating by resonance, and if there is some other species electron donating by hyperconjugation, the electron donation by resonance is stronger. That's what I need to understand. Okay, electron donating by resonance is stronger than electron donation by hyperconjugation or by induction. Okay, so I would say OMe is going to give me a stronger electron donation than CH3, right? So among 3 and 2, which do you think is more acidic?
2, sir.
Definitely, right? This is very strong electron donating. This is little less strong electron donating. So 2 is the one which is going to be little more acidic than 3, right? So if I have to bring the order in, 4 as the first rank, then comes 1, then comes 2, and the least acidic. Okay, so guys, this kind of questions are very, 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 very common, right? Now I can even make it more interesting by putting an ortho question and para question. For example, if I ask you OH with an OMe, OH with an OMe, will this work? Okay, right, fine. If I ask you, right, among these two, say this is the ortho one, this is the para one, right? Which is more acidic? If I ask you, what will be your answer? Now, please understand, both of them are having plus R effects. OMe in both the cases will have plus R effects. No issues at all. Now, like inductive effect, resonance is not distance dependent. Okay, both of them with respect to resonance are going to increase the negative charge on oxygen by the same extent, whether it's an ortho position or in para, but if it's a meta position. Okay, let me put that also. Okay, I have this at meta position also, right? Fine. So when I have OH, I know where and all I'm going to have negative charges formed. I'm going to have negative charges formed at ortho position and para position. Meta position has nothing, no role to play, right? So, okay, so comparing these three, right, which do you think is maximum acidic? Ortho, para, meta, which one? Guess. Need not be right. Meta makes sense, right? Obviously, because this is going to give me plus R, but if I look at the resonance structure of this, right? So where and all I'll have the negative charge with respect to this, I will have negative charge here, here, and here. Am I right? Ortho of this, para of this. Okay, anyways, so what I'm trying to tell you is that this OMe is going to be electron donating by resonance, but it is not going to affect the negative charge on OH, because this OH will be ortho para directing, but this OMe is meta to this OH, right? So this has no resonance contribution to the negative charge on OH, right? So the first rank goes to this. Okay, fine. What about these two? Ortho or para? Which is more acidic? Okay. Now maybe I'll help you a little. Now I told you both these things are going to have same amount of resonance only, even though it's an ortho or para, they're not. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a call. Okay, so they're going to have same amount of resonance, right? But since they have same amount of resonance, then I have to go for the other effect. The other effect would be resonance. Sorry, the other effect would be inductive effect, right? Now you see, by inductive effect, tell me, OMe is what kind of group? Electron donating or electron withdrawing? With respect to inductive effect, I'm asking.
Electron donating.
Electron
Donating.
With respect to inductive effect, resonance, it is donating, right? Obviously, because I have a lone pair, it is going to donate and stuff, right? What about inductive effect? Will it be electron withdrawing or electron donating? It is electron withdrawing, right? Because oxygen is highly electron. It's like chlorine, is it not? Right? For example, if I had, I'll come back to this question, right? So I'm just giving you an example. So if I have, say, CH2, OMe, and OH, and if I compare it with CH3OH, right? Now, OMe is what kind of group? OMe is going to be an electron withdrawing group because oxygen is highly electronegative, right? So obviously, this will be a better acid than this because I don't have an electron withdrawing group here. Here I have electron withdrawing group, right? So coming back to this, OMe in ortho portion or para portion will have the same resonance effect, no doubt about it. So now what I have to look into is the inductive effect. Okay, now just now I told you by inductive effect, OMe is an electron withdrawing group. It gives me minus I effect. Correct. So what will happen to the negative charge? The negative charge will be a little bit decreased because of OMe here. Now, why this OMe is not able to do it? Can you tell me? This OMe by resonance it is electron donating. This also by resonance electron donating. So nothing done. Both are same. So now I have to look into the inductive effect. By inductive effect, this OMe will decrease the negative charge on this oxygen, right? And this OMe is not able to do it. Why?
So here because of the distance dependence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Inductive effect is distance dependent, right? This OMe is very far from this, so it is not able to pull the electrons, but it is little close by. So by inductive effect, you can little stabilize the negative charge on oxygen. Okay, so what is the maximum one? The maximum acidic is this because it has no resonance contribution. It is not going to increase the negative charge, right? Now here I have resonance effects increasing the negative charge. And among these two, this has some little inductive effect by which it can pull electron. So the second rank goes to this. And the least basic of them all would be 3. Okay, right? Guys, I want everybody to give me a yes if you understood. Come on, did you understand?
Yes.
No. Okay, 1. I have almost 8-10 people. Come on. Okay, 2.
Yes, understood, sir.
3, 4. Okay.
Yes, sir.
5.
Yes, sir.
6. Okay, I'm happy. Good enough, right? So I hope everybody understood the acidic nature. See, guys, same exact ditto stuff we do it when it goes to carboxylic acids. Exactly same thing. Remove the H plus, check for the stability of the conjugate base. And if I have electron donating group present, it will be decrease in acidic strength. Electron withdrawing group present, increase in acidic strength. Don't mug it up. Please don't mug it up. It's all pretty logical if you understand. Okay, right? Fine. So that's about the acidic strength. Any other questions? Any other questions specifically from this?
Sir, what's the reason why alcohols are weaker acids than water?
Okay. So when I compare this, right? So in any acid for that matter, first thing what you have to understand is, for example, if I consider HCl with HF, what you did, you first check for the bond decision enthalpies. That is the first thing you have to look at. Okay, so whichever bond is weaker, H plus can easily come out. That is the first criteria. Second criteria is what is we're looking at, stability of the conjugate base after breaking the bond. Is it stable or not? After breaking the bond, the conjugate base is stable or not? That is second criteria. So first thing I have to look at is the bond enthalpies. Second thing is what you have to look at is about your stability of the conjugate base. Okay, right. Now here both of them are OH bonds. OH. Both of they almost have similar bond enthalpies. Okay, right. Now if I remove, then what I look at is the stability of the conjugate base. So here you have OH minus, and here you have RO minus. Right. Now it's pretty straightforward, right? R is an electron donating group, which will increase the negative charge on oxygen. And here I have nothing. I just have hydrogen. The negative charge stays as such. So definitely this is more stable. So this is more acidic than RH. Okay, understood?
Yes.
Okay, good. Right. So fine. Oh, wait. Let me ask you this question. I have phenol and say I have a carboxylic acid. Okay, which is more acidic? Phenol or the carboxylic acid? You don't have to think this much.
Carboxylic acid.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Carbo acid. The moment you see acid, there itself is given, right? Acid. So carboxylic acids are way more acidic than phenols, right? So that is why we go for some test, right? So if I have 3 test tubes, one contains aliphatic alcohol, the other contains phenol, other contains carboxylic acid. How will you test? Pretty simple, right? What will you do? Can you tell me? Right? If I have carboxylic acid, phenol, and an aliphatic alcohol, how will you know which is what? If I give you 3 test tubes, all of them will be colorless, right? How will you know? Then we'll come back to this question later. Okay, you tell me. Hope you understood the question, right? I have alcohol, aliphatic alcohol, phenol, and carboxylic acid in 3 different test tubes. How will you understand? How will you know which is what? This is a very famous question. Again, this can be asked in the board exam. Whatever I just asked you is a very famous question which can be asked. Okay. So if I have ROH, can it react with NaOH? This is an acid, right? Can it react with the base like NaOH? Yes, no? Yes or no? Still waiting. Okay, fine. Let me take a vote. How many of you say, sir, yes, okay, this will react? You can put it in the chat box, right? I'll see the chat box. Just, I want everybody to participate. Just tell me whether ROH with NaOH, basically what I expect is RO minus Na plus H2O, acid-base reaction is what I'm expecting, right? Will this reaction happen or not? Yes or no? Put it in the chat box, quick. I'll give you a minute time. Quick, quick, quick. Don't unmute yourself and speak. Just put it in the chat box. Yes or no? Reaction happens or no? Okay. One guys, Naveen says no. Okay. Others. Guys, don't worry if my video is stuck. I'm looking at the chat box. That's why it would have been stuck. Don't worry. Okay, only one answer. Come on, quick, 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 guys. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter. Please, it's all about participation. Go for it. Okay, so Anirudh says yes. Come on, I know so many people are there. Quick, guys, you just have to type yes or no. Okay, yes. Dihita, right? Yeah, Dihita says yes, and Kritika says no. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Still, some of you are left. Please go for it. Please don't be lazy. You just have to type. I know you type so much, so hours and hours in WhatsApp and Instagram, isn't it? I'm asking you to type just an yes or no. Okay, no from Shruti. Okay. Okay, another or Shruti. Fine. Right. Okay. So considerable amount of responses. Okay. The thing is, the answer is no. It is not going to react. Why? Because alcohols are not acidic enough. Right? Alcohols are not acidic enough to react with the base such as Na, even though it's a very strong base. Right? Alcohols are not acidic enough to react with the base like NaOH. But it can form the same product if I just put sodium. It can react with metal, and you will not form water. You will find hydrogen gas getting formed. So this will happen, right? ROH will react with sodium to form RONA. You will find that hydrogen gas is getting evolved, right? But if I put NaOH, nothing will happen. Okay, right? Now, when I go to phenols, right? Now, when I go to phenols, if I put Na, obviously you are going to form the phenoxide ion, ONA, or even if you're going to put NaOH, it will form the same thing. Why? Because phenols are more acidic than alcohol. So they can react with Na, obviously, because alcohol itself can react. And they can react with NaOH because they're more acidic. Right? But if I put a weak base, like Na2CO3, I know Na2CO3 is a carbonates are weak bases. Right? Now then there is no reaction. Okay, right? When I put a weak base like Na2CO3, NaHCO3, sodium bicarbonate, then you will see there is no reaction because phenols are not that acidic enough to react with a weak base, right? But if I have RCOOH, now when I put Na2CO3, they will react. They will react to form RCOONA. Okay, so the answer to my question, I had a test tube full of aliphatic alcohol and a phenol, second test tube, and third test tube is containing a carboxylic acid. This is how you do it, right? So when you have an alcohol, basically put NaOH in all of them. Okay, you have the 3 test tubes, 1, 2, 3. In all the 3 test tubes, you put NaOH, right? Only 2 of them will react, and whatever will react is basically going to be a phenol and the carboxylic acid. Basically, the aliphatic alcohol will not react. So take it out. The one thing you found out, right? Now what will you do? You have 2 things. Now put Na2CO3. Na2CO3, only the acid part will react. The phenol will not react. So whichever doesn't react is my phenol now. Take it out. So yeah, you have understood phenol, you have understood the aliphatic alcohol, and you have understood which is the carboxylic acid. Okay, so by this method, you will be able to easily find out which is an acid, which is a phenol, which is an aliphatic alcohol. Okay, right? Fine. Everybody understood, guys? This question is a very famous question. How will you distinguish between, say, propanol and a phenol? Something like that can be asked. So all about, you have to just say that react with the NaOH, phenol will react, alcohol will not. Okay, very simple, right? Okay, now coming back to this question. Okay, guys, any doubts? Is everything clear? How will you understand which is there, which in what test tube and all that? I hope everything is clear. I hope, right? Okay, right. Now coming back to this question, right? So I have phenol and I have a carboxylic acid. We already know the answer that obviously carboxylic acids are more acidic than your corresponding phenols. Now the question is why? Right. Now look at this, guys. I'll write the conjugate base. This is the carboxylate ion, right? And this would have been the phenoxide ion. Okay, right? Fine. So if you look at this, which has more, so it's all about resonance here. Both of them are resonance stabilized, right? Now, which has more number of resonance structures? Phenoxide ion or the carboxylate ion? Which has more number of resonance structures?
Phenoxide, sir.
Definitely, right? Phenoxide has more numbers. So this can come, so many bonds can break and stuff. So definitely the number of resonance structures available for phenoxide ion is greater. No doubt about it. Then what should I expect? If at all this is more, if at all more resonance this has, this should be more stable, and phenol should be more acidic than the corresponding carboxylic acid. But what we see in reality is ulta. Right? I hope you understand. Just now you said that phenoxide ion has more number of resonance structures. So what I expect that phenoxide ion should be more stable than the carboxylate ion, right? So obviously this is a more stable conjugate base than this conjugate base. So definitely phenol should be a stronger acid than the carboxylic acid. But what we see here is ulta, right? Now this again is a very famous question. Why is it happening? Why is it that even though this has more resonance structures, this is more stable and that is a better acid? Now the reason, please take it down somewhere, it's very important. It is because now you see, if I make the resonance structure, if this bond comes and this bond breaks, how can I write? This will become O minus and this will become C double. Is it not? Now always remember, if there are two, if there is a resonance, if resonance happens, right? If resonance happens and the resonance structures are of same energy, right? If you, I'll give you a second, please take this down. Okay. During resonance, if resonance structures are of same energy, that is more stable, than having more resonance structures with different energies, right? Is more stable than having more number of resonance structures with different energies. Okay, so if you look at the statement, I think you'll be able to understand what I'm trying to say, right? So please understand, guys, these two are exactly same, isn't it? Right? I have a C double bond O, I have a CO minus, I have a CO minus. These two are having exactly same energy. But you see, if it's a phenoxide ion, right, what will happen? Negative charge will be here, negative charge will go now to the carbon atom. Oxygen having negative charge, carbon having negative charge is entirely different, right? So definitely all the resonance structures you see in case of phenol are going to have different energies, because the negative charges are on different atoms, right? But you see, in case of a carboxylate ion, they are going to give me two resonance structures, and both these resonance structures are having same amount of energy or same amount of stability, however you want to call it, right? Now whenever you have two equal resonance structures, that is more stable than having even 1,000 resonance structures with different energies. Okay, so that is the reason. So carboxylate ion will give me resonance with the same energy. That is why it is more stable, even though it gives me only two resonance structures. But here, even though it gives me more number of resonance structures, the resonance energies of all these things are different. That's why it is little unstable. Okay, right? So this was also, I'm not sure this question has been asked anywhere, but possible to be asked, definitely. Right? I have seen it in some subjective paper. I don't know where, but I have seen it. Okay, right? Okay. Any other question, people? We have 5 more minutes. Any other question you want to ask me? I hope this is okay. Everybody understood this, whatever I'm trying to tell you. Right? And famous questions can be, how will you distinguish between a primary and a secondary alcohol? What test you have to undergo? Please tell me. If I have primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohols, what test you do? What is the name of the test? If I have primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohols, how will you distinguish between them? What test you use?
Lucas test.
That's it, Lucas test, right? What is the Lucas reagent?
Anhydrous ZnCl2.
Right, anhydrous ZnCl2. Basically, anhydrous ZnCl2 will convert your alcohol to alkyl chloride. Okay. Now, alkyl chlorides are less soluble in water. Okay, alkyl chlorides are less soluble, and that's why you form the turbid solution, right? So if it's a tertiary alcohol, very quickly it forms turbidity because the formation of alkyl chloride, because it is going to follow SN1 mechanism. Please understand, right? So all you're doing here is ROH getting converted to RCl via SN1. That is what is happening in a Lucas test, right? So what you have to understand is, obviously, if the alcohol is tertiary, you'll form a tertiary carbocation. That will immediately form the chloride, and that's where turbidity very quickly forms as soon as you add it. And in case of a secondary, it will take some 2 to 5 minutes. And in case of primary, only after heating you will get the turbidity, because it is going to follow SN1. Primary carbocation is a little unstable when compared to secondary and tertiary. So that is the reason why it is undergoing little slower reaction. Okay, right. If I ask you this question, if I ask you, I have CH3, CH2OH with CH3, CH2, CH2OH. I have two different test tubes with me, right? One containing this, the other containing this. How will you know which is what? What test you will do? I hope. Okay, fine. Let me see if you can say it. Or else anyways, I'm gonna help. The same thing can be asked like this also. CH3, CHO, CH3, CH2, CHO. Same thing. Whatever is the answer for this is the answer for this. How will you distinguish between these two? The same way only you will be able to distinguish between these two. How will you do? 2 words is what I'm expecting. Dash reaction. One word I already told you. Reaction. Only one word I expect. When is your board exams? May month. When is the board exam? Have they announced the date?
Yes, sir.
When is it?
Sir, May 18th.
May 18th.
Chemistry.
May 18th is chemistry. So roughly you have 2 months. And I hope you would have written at least 3 to 4 tests by this time. Full portion test you should have written, right? Okay. So the answer to this, you want me to tell, or you still want time to think? Kolb's reaction. No. Kolb's reaction is this, right? Kolb's reaction is, if I put what is it? CO2. I'm going to get this. This is what is Kolb's reaction, right? Right? CO2. Basically, here I have a H. So you just include the CO2 inside and you're going to get CO1. This is what is Kolb's. This is not going to help. Right. So the answer is.
Sir, is it like iodoform?
Definitely. That's what I'm going to write. Right. It's iodoform reaction. Right. So hope you know for iodoform what is going to happen. So remember, you can do it either for alcohols or you can do it for aldehydes. Why? Because iodoform. Okay. Let me look into it. So basically what is going to happen is, if I have CH3CHO, for example. Okay. So CH3CHO, for iodoform, you have to put NaOH in the presence of I2. And this NaOH in the presence of I2 is going to form NaOI. And NaOI is called sodium hypohalide. Oh, halide in this case is iodide. Right? NaOH plus I2. NaOI is highly unstable. Right? Sodium hypoiodide is highly unstable. That is why it is prepared in situ, right? I hope you have heard this name word, right? When I say in situ means wherever required, I produce and use it, right? This component is unstable, so I will not be able to store it in a container. Okay, so when I wanted to react, I add something else and prepare it at that moment. That is what you mean by in situ preparation. Okay, so anyways, so I have NaOH bar I2, which is going to form NaOI, and this is what is going to form is, remember, for iodoform reaction to happen, right? For iodoform reaction to happen, you should have an alpha methyl group. Very, 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 very important. You should have an alpha methyl group to be present for the iodoform reaction to happen, right? So please understand, this is the main carbon atom. This is the alpha position. So in alpha position, you have a CH3. So this reaction will happen. But if at all you look at this, this is the alpha carbon, and this is not a methyl group. It's a CH2. I should have a CH3. So this will not give iodoform test, but this will give iodoform test, right? So iodoform test, what you're going to do? You are going to put this, and I'll write the product maybe at the top, right? I'll write the top. So this alpha methyl group will always form CHI3, which is an yellow precipitate, right? This alpha, again, mechanism is very complex. This is a one-page mechanism. You really do not know it, right? So this CH3, because of this NaOI, is going to form CHI3 iodoform. That is what is iodoform. That is why it's called iodoform reaction, because the product is going to be an iodoform, which will be yellow in color. So the moment you see an yellow color, you can decide that that particular aldehyde or a ketone or an alcohol is having an alpha methyl group, right? So now what is going to happen to this one? This one will get oxidized to form HCOO minus. Okay, you have only one carbon, aldehyde getting oxidized to acid, with one carbon atom less. This carbon atom is going to form CHI3. Okay, now you can ask me, sir, how am I doing it for alcohols, right? Alcohols, say I gave you the same thing, right? This with CH3, CH2OH. Now this will give and this will not give. Is it not? Because you see, this is the alpha carbon, which is having a methyl group, and you see this is the alpha carbon, there is no methyl group here. Okay, and you can ask me, sir, how is it that? Now please understand, NaOI is a mild oxidizing agent. Okay, NaOI will be a mild oxidizing agent. So it will oxidize the corresponding alcohol to aldehydes or ketones, and then the reaction happens. It's not like alcohols directly get converted to iodoform and the corresponding acid, right? So if I have an alcohol, first will get converted to an aldehyde or a ketone, and this reaction happens, whatever it is. Okay, fine. So maybe if I give you some more examples on this, right? Say if I ask you, I have CH3, C double bond O, CH2, CH3. I put NaOH bar I2. Tell me the products. Anyways, we'll see this again in aldehydes, ketones, and carboxylic acids. But still, what will be the product? Or if I can give you that it is CHOH, whatever it is, right? The reduced form. What will be the product? Just now I told you, right? How do you decide the product? Quick. Have I crossed the time? Yes. Well, I'll complete with this. That's it. What will happen? Same thing, right? It is the alpha methyl group, whichever you have, is going to form the iodoform, and the rest of it is going to form the carboxylic acid. So what will be the product? Tell me. Do I have an alpha methyl group here? First, tell me.
Yes,
do
sir.
I have? Right, obviously, right? This is the alpha position, and this position I have an alpha methyl, right? So this is done. That's it. This is going to form CHI3, right? So what is left out is this entire thing. So this entire thing will form the acid now. Now go for it. CH3, CH2. Now this is the containing alcohol. So you directly put CO. Or instead, if you are putting Na, it is basically going to be COO minus NMS. Okay, guys, understood. The moment you see an alpha methyl group in to go for iodoform, to form the iodoform, the rest, whatever is there, just make it into an acid. Okay, right? Everybody understood? I want everybody to give me an S and they will leave. That's it. Everybody understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes, sir.
3, 4, 5. Okay, cool people. I hope this class was very useful for you, right? It was very good interacting with you. Maybe tomorrow we'll see again. Tomorrow we'll see aldehydes, ketones, and polyols. And I would strongly suggest, please study the entire NCERT textbook and then come. You will have more insight to whatever I'm going to say. Like this, if you don't remember this iodoform reaction, then again I have to teach you, waste some time, right? Isn't it? So if you just study it and come, maybe if you don't remember also, but the moment I'm going to tell you something, that will click. That way we can save little time. We have very less amount of time. We have to complete a lot of stuff. So if you can cooperate, it will be very, very helpful. Okay. Anyways, thank you so much, people. We'll meet again tomorrow. I'm ending the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.